Hi, let's install Memos on a Synology NAS. So I will start by going to usememos.com because that is the official site of Memos. And if you have never used it, they actually have a live demo so you can check it out. But I will start by going to Docs and then on the left-hand side, Installation and Self-Hosting because, hey, we're self-hosting. And then I'll come down to Past Docker Run. There is a section called Docker Compose, so that's what I want. And yeah, I want to create a docker compose.yaml. So I'm going to copy this text here and then go to my Synology NAS. And then I'll open up Container Manager, which if you don't have it, go to the Package Center and you can just type in Container Manager. You don't even have to spell it that correctly and it'll show up. And you hit install. If it's not showing up for you in the App Store, that doesn't mean that you can't run it. You might just want to Google the model of your NAS and see if other people have gotten Container Manager to run on it. You might be able to download the official installer from Synology's website and just do a manual install to get it working. So I'm going to X out of here, hop into Container Manager. I'm going to scoot this over a little bit because I know that I'm going to need to make a new folder. So I'm going to go to Project on the left-hand side, Create, and then for project name, I'm thinking I'm just going to call this one Memos. And then for path, it wants a path because I'm going to save that text that I copied over. I'm going to save that as what's called a YAML file. So I'm going to make a folder for that. And that's going to be in my Docker share. So I believe when you install Container Manager, it should create a Docker share for you. So inside of here, I'm going to create a folder. Call that Memos also. Exit out of here. So now I'll set path, Docker, Memos, which I wish you could create a new folder from this menu, but you can't. So I'll select that. And then for source, I'm going to change this from upload Docker Compose YAML to create Docker Compose YAML. And now I'll paste in that text from the Use Memos website. Boom, boom, boom. This all looks good. So what I'm going to want to change is volume. So see this colon here. So everything to the right side of that, that's information that's within the Memos world. So when it launches its own Docker container, it's launching with its own file system. And this is telling me, hey, I've got a folder in my file system when I launch called Memos that's located in a folder called var, and inside of that there's another folder called opt, and inside of that is a folder called Memos. Would you like me to, instead of using this one inside of my Docker container, to use one that is in your file system? And I do want that because then I'll have access to that data and I can back it up. And also with Docker containers, if it doesn't have a volume like this, every time it goes down and goes back up, it's going to delete all that data. So that means you would have to create a new login every single time. All your posts would be gone every single time you bring this Docker container down and back up again. So it gives us I don't want to say option, I'm going to say like a mandate to give it a folder to store all of that persistent data. So to do that, I'm going to go back to File Station. And then in my Docker share, I'll go back to the Memos folder. And I'm going to create a new folder, and you can call it whatever you want. Over there, it's called Memos, but that might be confusing to have a folder called Memos inside of Memos. So I'm going to call this data-memos because I know that that is a data folder for the Memos app. And then I'm going to right-click and hit Properties, and I will copy that file location. And then I will paste it. Oh, that's not working at all. Okay, there we go. Let me delete that and I will paste it there. So it's before the colon. So before the colon, I've got the location of that folder that I just made. To the right of that colon, you don't touch that. That's not for you. That's for Memos. Okay. And then, yeah, we have the port numbers here. So 5230, the port numbers are how we access this web application. So again, I don't need to worry about anything to the right of the colon. That's for the Docker container. That's for Memos. But to the left, that's for me. So the only reason that I would want to change this number to the left is if I already have a container that uses this port number. And 5230, I doubt you're going to have anything that's using that. So in this case, I don't. But if I wanted to, I could change this number to pretty much anything within a certain range of numbers. I don't know what that limit is. Maybe it's around 30,000. Maybe it's around 60,000. I could Google that, but I'm not going to. But if I change this to 5555, that'll also work. But I'm just going to make it 5230 right now because that's a number that I'm not using for anything. So then I will hit next. I am not going to set up a web station. I will hit next. And then start the project once it is created. I will hit done. And now it's going to go through. It's going to download. It's going to extract. And it's going to exit code 0 for us, which is exactly what I want. Now, all I'm going to do is go to, in my web browser, I'm going to type in the IP address of my NAS, :5230. So that 5230 number is that port number that was to the left of the colon in that Docker Compose file. If you don't know your Synology's IP address, one easy way to do it is just go to your control panel, network interface, and then your static IP, there should be an IP number here that tells you the IP address of your Synology NAS. Hopefully it's static, because that means that it never changes. So I'm just going to use that number. So in this case, let's just say it's 192.168.1.20 :5230. And hey, we got Memos up and running. So there we go. And you know what? When Memos runs, I think the first thing you need to do is sign up. So you'll just create your admin account. So we'll just call this Memos, and I'll make a password that I didn't just type in Memos with a Z for the password, because that would be ridiculous. But I'm in, so I can post a thought. Hi, I'm Memos. And you can make it private, and then, you can just post a bunch of things. You can post images, whatever you want. It kind of works like Twitter. So that's how it's going to be posting. It's a great way to post notes and use kind of as a journal. But you can also make hashtags. So if you're trying to track something, you can just hashtag it like, hey, I did 50 push-ups today, #workout. And then you could search Memos. Let's just say 50 push-ups today, #workout. I'll hit save, and then I can search Memos. And if I type in workout, look who shows up. Look who shows up. Type in another one that doesn't have #workout. I'll say 50 hamburgers, #not working out. Save. Okay. Now if I type out workout, it's the only one that shows up. The other thing you can do is you don't have to make these private. I could say this is a public post about my workout, but my hamburger post, maybe that's private information that I don't need anybody to know. I don't need them to know that I had 50 hamburgers today. And the way that would work is you can see this mod up here. That means that Memos is the administrator. I'll sign out. I'm going to sign up, and my new username is going to be datas with a password that is definitely not exactly the same as the username. Oh, sign up is disabled. Let's go back to Memos. Well, we'll have to sign in. Memos, and I'll have to enable that. So I'll go to Settings, Preferences, Members, System. Oh, okay, so allow user sign up. That looks good. So I'm not sure why I can't do that, but I'll just go to Members and create datas, create, sign out. And then I'm going to sign in as datas, who is not a mod, not an administrator. And I'll say hi as a private tweet. Hi. Okay. So data's in the system. But if I go to the Explore tab, I can also see anything public. And Memos made a public posting for his 50 push-ups today. That's incredible. I bet you that Memos has not also eaten 50 hamburgers today because he didn't post about it. So that's the gist of how Memos works. It's an awesome app. I use it a lot, and it's super easy to set up on a Synology NAS. Real quick, I'll go back and explain just a little bit if you're not too familiar with Docker Compose here, kind of what I did. Okay, so I'll go to the Docker Compose, and you can see it's up here. I can stop it, close. I'll double click it, and then I can go to YAML configurations, and I can see everything that I wrote down before. One thing I wanted to say, and this is not a bad habit to get into, is remember when I was creating this data folder, I copied and pasted the location. I went into the Memos folder that I created, I right-clicked Data Memos and Properties, and then I copied and pasted the location. There is an alternative to this. So this YAML file is located in that Memos folder, and within that is my Data Memos folder. Instead of typing out volume 2, or in your case it's probably volume 1, but I've got mine on volume 2, Docker, Memos, Data Memos, I can actually just replace this first part with a period. And then what this period is going to say is, hey, whatever folder this Docker file is in, this Docker compose YAML file, in this case it's in that Memos folder, so we've got that compose.yaml file here. Whatever folder I'm in, that is going to be what this period represents. So this period is representing that whole volume 2 Docker Memos folder. So instead, you just put a period, and then it's going to say, okay, the data Memos folder within that folder. And that's where it'll look. What's nice about having this is if you're trying to move this Docker Compose file around, it's going to work a little bit better with other systems because it won't always be looking for something in a volume 2. Like let's say you're transferring this to another Synology NAS, but that's actually on a volume called volume 1 or volume 3 or volume 4. When you try and launch it, it's going to give you an error. So if you just use this period instead, you could copy and paste this entire Memos folder, put it on another Synology system that has Container Manager, and then it's going to be able to find, you're going to be able to launch that container with no volume issues. So just wanted to point that out. That's what that period represents. I believe in Linux, when I launch this on Linux servers, it'll actually create that folder if it doesn't exist. But that doesn't seem to be the case in Synology because if I try and run this now, if this folder didn't exist, it would throw me an error. But that's the gist of how you install Memos. Hopefully this helped you out. And if not, sorry for wasting your time.